You are listening to Ace Comicals. I'm Greg, and today I'm joined by my co-host Leon. Let's go! Hello, comics fans. A weekly show. It's not really our usual style, we know, but for me, this is a way of keeping busy and coping with all this pandemic stuff. This is Ace Comicals, episode number 85, and it's just me and Leon today.
Good evening.
Talking comics and reading comics is kind of like what's keeping me in good spirits, and I want to help keep you in good spirits, so that's why we're doing this again with such a short sort of like time in between, I guess. That, and I mean, speaking for myself really, but I've got nothing better to do because we're not allowed to leave the house or anything. So there we go.
Whereas I've got a multitude of things to do. But in prep for last week's episode, I came across a lot more comics than I wanted to speak about in one episode. So it's bonus round, baby.
Yeah, bonus round. We should just kick off with the reviews, I think, because I don't think a lot's happened in between times, apart from the fact that we've been having to stay shut inside our houses and things. I'm still leaving to go to work because of my job. We'll kick off with the reviews. So I will start with a book I read, which was released. This is like the latest edition of it, which came out quite recently. Came out sort of like mid-March. And it is a book that was originally published in 1996, I believe. And it is called Facts from Sarajevo. So what I will do is I will just introduce this book using the Dark Horse blurb, because I think they put it better than I could. So, this is the astonishing true story of a family in Sarajevo, Bosnia, trapped in a city under siege as war and genocide rage around them, with only a fax machine to communicate. On the receiving end of these faxes, from his trapped friend, Joe Kubert brilliantly illustrates their struggle towards freedom against the worst kind of odds. It's the tale of a very real war told from the perspective of innocent victims, but it's also full of strength, survival, and love. So, yeah, it is the story. It tells of the atrocities and the horrors of the Bosnian War through the eyes of Irving Rustemagic, founder of Strip Art magazine, Strip Art, which was published in Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and then, which was then at the time when this magazine was founded, it was part of Yugoslavia, and it was distributed through the entire territory of ex-Yugoslavia. And later, he was sort of the founder of Strip Art Features. He was kind of like a licensing house / comic publisher type deal that he kind of was in charge of. And he had kind of like close ties with other people that worked in writers, things like that across the world, comics wise, which is where this story begins, because obviously he's quite good friends at this point with Joe Kubert. And yeah, he's trapped in the epicenter of what by all accounts was hell on earth, with only a fax machine as the line to the outside world. And this is like during the Bosnian War, so that's 1992 to 1995. And he would send faxes of his experiences, of his struggle to try and get him and his family out to safety throughout the time they were trapped there. And I think this is part of what possibly kept him going as well, being able to hear from people on the outside.
Yeah.
From the way the story's written, it's like what keeps him going is getting these faxes back from his friends on the outside, and how they sort of like give him encouragement and tell him to keep up strength and do what they can on their end to try and help get him out as well. And Joe Kubert expertly captures this struggle and the unrelenting savagery of the war. It's a story collated from the faxes that Irvin sent to his friends. Excerpts from and full reproductions of the faxes appear peppered throughout the story as a reminder that however unbelievable and horrifying some of it may seem, however much a stretch of the imagination it may seem, it was actually happening. And these panels in this book are based on an eyewitness account. This it was Joe Kubert's masterwork. It was a raw and grim picture painted by the words in each fax brought to life through the power of Joe's beautiful art. The sheer strength of Irvin's family. I mean, like they were lucky ones as well. From what we tell, from what we know from history, from what we know from having seen it, because this happened in our lifetime, didn't it? So what we might remember from having seen the news as children, maybe, or from what we may have read since then, we know that these people were the lucky ones, or some of the lucky ones that managed to escape. And by all accounts, you know, how they managed to keep going and keep it together, like no matter how hellish things became, it's an inspiration. And this is a story you need to read. Like, you will grit your teeth along with Irvin and feel his frustration and anger and sorrow. Joe's art is like, Joe Kubert's art is like full of life and expression, and that kind of like helps to kind of like bring that to you and put you in it. But you will also experience the strength of love and the hope, and you get to learn just how important it is to have hope, like how powerful hope is, especially with like some of the stuff they were dealing with here. And it's just like, I mean, probably not the best thing for me to read at this time.
Yeah, I was going to say, why of all the times did you pick now? Because you know me, I'm the type of person who I'm the opposite of how you operate in that way. So I will, if I'm feeling depressed or whatever, I'll watch a depressing thing and feel better for it. Or like, say, even recently with COVID-19 on back in like February, I watched like Contagion and stuff like that. And like, for me, there's like a catharsis you get out of seeing like a fictional depiction of something, or like an artistic depiction or something, because I don't know, like the way like the ebb and flow of a story, and by the time you get to the end, there's, I don't know.
Yeah.
For some people, it's a form of like control over the thing, because it's like it ends and it shows you like it can end, blah blah. And then for other people, there's just a thing of like it's like a flush for emotions. So I was wondering what it was like for you, because I don't think you're generally not disposed that way.
Yeah, I'm generally about the escapism, but I wanted to read this because I was genuinely interested in the story, and that kind of superseded the need to escape reality for me. And in reading this and getting to the end of it, I actually did kind of experience some kind of relief from it, actually. If that makes sense. And, you know, to see that this has such a happy ending as well, because at the end, it explains and you know, you get photographs and things like that, and it is a happy ending. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a happy ending. So originally published in 1996, and I mean, some of the things, I mean, we know from history some of the things that happened during this war in Bosnia, but like some of the like the titles of the chapters in this, and some of the things that are kind of explained or alluded to, or things that happened over there, it's absolutely horrific, and it just brings to light, you know, just how terrible that time was for people. And
yeah, because it sounds like what the story does is like it finds, like you're saying, the hope and like the best of humanity amongst the thing where you're seeing a lot of the worst of humanity.
Yes, exactly that. And the book is dedicated to a man named Karim Zamovich, who was a man that Joe Kubert had never met. He sent packets of photographs over through Irvin to be used as reference for, you know, the architecture and everything else. And there's a picture of him in the beginning of the book reading a magazine with a picture of it's like you can, I don't know what type of magazine it is, maybe it is a Batman comic, but there's like an advert, it must be an advert for Batman Forever in there, because there's a picture of Jim Carrey on the page in his in his Riddler outfit. And it does actually say that this man was a comics fan, but this was dedicated to him, this book. He died of a grenade wound in Sarajevo in August 1995 at just 24 years old. He was a young journalist and photographer. So he was taking these photos and sending them over, and the book's dedicated to him. So it's a nice, it's a nice book to have, because it's one of those things where I think it belongs on everyone's shelf. Like, any comics fan needs to have this on their shelf, because and I think it's a story that needs to be told. There's an excerpt at the back where it tells you that Joe and Irvin originally had like a friendly argument over the fact that Irvin did not want this book to be made, but sort of Irvin's daughter kind of convinced him in a way, and Joe Kubert made the book anyway. Because he felt it like it was his duty to tell his friend's story. And like this beautiful style that he has spares no detail in its stark realism. It's beautiful organic lines. It crafts expression and mood in a way I think no other artist could, given the circumstances. Yeah. And yeah, he saw it as his duty to tell this story, and you can feel this in the attention to detail. So yeah, that is one to read. So that is Facts from Sarajevo. And that was written, art, writing, and letters by Joe Kubert, God rest his soul. Publisher Dark Horse. Colouring by Studio Saf in Pahek. That's Strip Art Features. Colour separations by Strip Art Features Scan Art in Slovenia. So yeah. Even the comic itself has ties to that part of the world, I guess. Moving on from there was another one I decided to read. Now, this one was like something that I thought, this is like more positive, slightly more positive. This is something that popped up in my feed on Twitter, because Martin Morazzo of the Ice Cream Man gang, the Ice Cream Man creative team, he was promoting this, and in this, with what we're dealing with right now in this pandemic climate and whatever else, this current crisis that the world's dealing with, a lot of things have shut down and ground to a halt. And like we talked about last week, the comics industry has all but ground to a halt at the moment to try and help halt the spread of COVID-19. And at this point, no new comics are being printed, no new comics are being distributed. And what these guys have decided to do is they've decided to do like a bi-weekly comic called Quarantine Comics, which is like a bi-weekly Ice Cream Man comic, like short, 5 to 6 pages, whatever, short little stories that just kind of like released every so often, every 2 weeks, I believe. It's I'll just read what they've got, the official statement on their website, actually, on the Quarantine Comics site. So in an effort to help brick and mortar comic shops during the COVID-19 crisis, the creative team behind Ice Cream Man will be posting all new ICM Mini Comics. So these are kind of like mini comics. They are Ice Cream Man comics still. 2 to 4 pages right here once or twice a week. They'll be sold as PDFs for $1.99 a pop, which is I think that's something like, it's like £1.60 in UK pounds and pence.
Who knows in a few weeks' time?
Yeah, that might end up being £3, but who knows? Half of the profits go to the Book Industry Charitable Foundation, BINC, which supports struggling booksellers. This includes local comic book shops who are facing unprecedented financial hardship after the closure of many of their stores, temporary shuttering of their distribution system, and the non-operation of pretty much every paper printer in the country. I'm assuming this is the US. To wit, there's no way to release new comics into stores right now. The entire industry is essentially set on pause, or essentially on pause. Comic book shops are essential to the future of this kooky little medium. Creators of all stripes rely on them to get their art into the hands of interested readers. So here we are trying our best to help out in a small way. And if you're still jonesing for the real McCoy, example, if you're still looking to finally read that beloved graphic novel you've always been interested in, or in dire need of Volume 4 of Ice Cream Man, visit comicshoplocator.com to find a local comics purveyor. Give them a call. They very well might provide easy home delivery or curbside pickup. Cheers and stay healthy. So, this first one is called I Am What I Am. And this is about how sometimes we're not at our most productive during this crisis, and it's comparing now. I assume it's slightly autobiographical, and I think the main character in the art is supposed to be W. Maxwell Prince, but it is comparing what's happening now with what happened in the time of William Shakespeare, and this was Will Shakespeare working during the bubonic plague, when apparently he managed to write like some of it, like his three greatest tragedies or something like that during that time. I don't know. I can't.
I'm not your man. Even though I've read a bunch of Shakespeare, I don't know, or I'm not up on all the lore from that real period.
Yeah, can't claim to be a Shakespeare advert, but I know he definitely wrote Shakespeare advert. A Shakespeare expert, but I know he definitely wrote King Lear. While that was happening.
You've passed a mark on your English GCSE.
Yeah, I know he definitely wrote King Lear while this was happening, supposedly. So yeah, and it opens up, and it's in the form of a sonnet. So. It's a story kind of it's kind of framed in the form. It's in the form of a sonnet, and in the words of the writer on the blurb, this premiere issue of Quarantine Comics is an English sonnet sequentially told in iambic pentameter notch, and it's about getting less done than one would like during times of isolation. So yeah, it's written as a sonnet. So it speaks to me on many levels, this book. The usual fantastic ICM team doing what they do best. Short story for me highlights the anxiety of the situation, how that can be exacerbated by constant updates or access to news. Because part of the story is the fact that while sitting at home alone and trying to work, our writer, which I assume is supposed to be W. Maxwell Prince, I think it is him. I looked at photos of him and I looked at the art, and I think it's him. He's constantly drawn to his phone when he's supposed to be working. And like how this can be exacerbated by constant updates or access to the news, that the little glowing portal you keep in your pocket that draws you in and then works its venom to paralyze you, basically. I mean, we've all been in that mood or frame of mind described here, and these 4 pages just let you know that you aren't alone. Aptly composed as a sonnet, as it's, comparing Shakespeare's time to the current situation. And maybe Shakespeare managed to work so well because back then the information was not so readily available.
Yeah.
There's nothing to feed the fear. Like, I think sometimes access to information and up-to-date news about the situation is as much a curse as it is a blessing. I know,
it's like reinforced messages compounded again and again and again and again, and then that's not even including all the conspiracy theories and
exactly. Yeah, and the constant, dissection and discussion on social media. Like every time you open a social media app, it's there in your face. It's the first thing you see right now. People talking about the situation, dissecting and discussing the situation. And it's It's just everywhere. And I know for me, it stifles my productivity. It saps my energy. It feeds the dark feelings. And I know that on the internet, there is as much positivity as there is negativity. And I do try to focus on the positivity. And what we're trying to do here is bring you some of that positivity. And there's all sorts of little projects and things happening, things you can get involved in, hashtags you can get involved in, things like that to help you kind of like pass the time and stay positive. And stay mentally healthy as well as physically healthy while you self-isolate. There's a hashtag going around at the moment that I am having a go at, which is it 6 fan arts? I'm just going to double check and check my tweet to tell you. Yeah, 6 fan arts. So there's the 6 fan arts hashtag, which is going around right now, which encourages you to ask people that follow you to suggest 6 characters that you can draw in your own style, basically. So 6 random characters. So I'm having a go at that right now. I've done 3 of 6. And yeah, I mean, it's not easy for me because I'm not known for my ability to draw people like that aren't monsters. So
well, is that your,
yeah, I mean,
is that
and
one
a lot
of your weak spots?
Yeah, it is one of my weak spots, but it's given me a chance to kind of like to test myself and have a go at it. And most of the characters I've had suggested are like lifelike people. They're people, basically. They look like people. That's how I can describe it. So yeah, we'll see what comes of that when I actually finally finish it. But I've done 3, and I'm happy with those 3. The other 3 I'm struggling with. One of the ones I'm struggling with is Aquaman, but it has to be Jason Momoa Aquaman.
You just put a beard and some tattoos on him. Done.
I know that was Sophie that asked for that one. I'm doing portraits, so I'm just doing faces. But Sophie's like Jason Momoa Aquaman, and I'm like, okay, I'll try. So I'm having a go, but it just keeps coming out like not looking like Jason Momoa. So we'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much the crux of the book.
It's a cool idea.
Yeah, it unfortunately though, obviously it's the negativity that sticks with you and has the lasting effect. I find a lot of the time, but we're trying to stay positive, and we're trying to do things to stay positive. And this book, in its 4 pages, this sonnet is helpful for me and was comforting for me actually when I read it. So yeah, and also just a little message: we shouldn't feel bad about not being at our most productive, because this is a difficult time for everyone. So, as much as you get anxious about not being productive and you get anxious about the situation, you shouldn't feel bad about that, because that's, don't chastise yourself for not being able to finish something or not being at your most productive or whatever, because that's just not helping you. That's just toxic. It's going to be difficult for you to stay productive in a time like this, isn't it? So there you go.
Yeah, because we've seen that stuff going around like social media, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's like you never lack the time. You
just lack the discipline.
Yeah. And it's just like,
yeah,
it's such a 2-dimensional and like toxic message to go around.
Yeah, expecting us all to come out basically like, Bruce Wayne or something, like fully trained and like honed and skilled or whatever.
Yeah, that's where I think that things like those art challenges are like the better way to do it, because it encourages like it can give motivation, and it encourages like a social aspect to all of this, where everyone's coming together and doing a thing like Inktober, whereas like just chastising people for not being like perfectly able to knuckle down when they're worrying about if they're going to be able to get toilet paper on Tuesday is quite a frustrating hill to die on.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, that is Quarantine Comics, and that is going to be bi-weekly. For the time being, for as long as this lasts. Weekly or bi-weekly, they say on their website. There's no sort of like fixed. They just release them as and when, I guess. Which is kind of cool. I quite like that. And then that is going to be. So that is written by W. Maxwell Prince. That is art by Martin Morazzo, colors by Chris O'Halloran, and lettering by Good Old Neon. So Leon, do you want to do one of yours next?
Yes, why not? I will do No One's Rose. Number 1.
So this is Vault, isn't it? This is
Yeah.
I remember looking at this and it's on my list. In fact, both of yours are on my list, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you should check them out. I mean, I think there's generally overlap with us guys.
Yeah.
But so this book is. Oh, I'll just read like a basic bit of what the story is. So, like the Anthropocene, the era of significant human impact on Earth's ecosystems, is over. This is a post-climate change world where all the most brutal effects are at their worst and have all but wiped out life. The last vestiges of humanity now live inside a dome, the Green Zone. In the middle of the dome is a bioengineered tree that provides oxygen and general life for like the 30,000 remaining residents in there. And it's sort of presented as like this utopia, like this bastion of science, where amongst all the adversities, this is the thing. This is the defiance of humanity to not be wiped out, but to learn all the lessons of the past and what people in their past, our current times, did to destroy the world. So that you have things where people are like rejecting of this period of time and talking about plastics as the awful things that they are and what they did to the planet. So there's a lot of like commentary there, but it's not in a preachy way, because I think at this point, I don't know, like to be like preachy about climate change is kind of hard, because it's a very real thing that is that we're hurtling to at an incredible speed. So yeah, it doesn't really come off as like this Mother Earth diatribe thing, but instead it builds like this quite like living and breathing world, really. But the comic itself centers on a character called Captain Ten Gavrilo, and she's a talented but unpopular teenage bioengineer, and her brother Saren, who he is a person who he works to do with like drainage and water filtration, and that's like looked at as a lower class job, and therein lies the main thing that stops this being like a utopia, is the fact that humanity's come together to use science to survive, but there's still a system of class and inequality because, you know, humans got a human. So they have very different like political feelings about the world they live in. Ten, she's pretty much bought in to the whole world, and like they live on, I can't remember the name of it. They live on the like underside, so that there's this big dome. In the middle of it is a big tree, and we get like a map in the comic, like related to our chat last week about like maps and extra design elements, which
well built in
lore and history. Yeah. And this has some of it as well.
Yeah.
And in that diagram, you see that there's 2 levels. So once people are in, there's the lower level where like the general blue collar type people live, and then you've got the upper level, which is like held as like elite, and they have parades that only the top level people are allowed to go to, and you've got a pass. There's like a light rail system, and there's a mid station, and you get checked, and if you're not meant to be there, you'll be kicked off or arrested or whatever. So like she's fully bought in with her brother Seren. He's not at all, and his leanings have pushed towards a more revolution-based fringe group. But at the heart of it, they're still brother and sister, and they connect in that way. And that's pretty much the setup of this book, and I think it's quite a good one. I think that it brings up a lot of scenarios and questions, and I think through character, we're learning a lot about what it's like to grow up in this world, because like for them, like all they've ever known is like what the world is now in the dome. And people don't go outside that much, it feels like. In this book, we start with a couple of people going outside because they go out to collect samples and like roots of like nature, and then bring them into the dome, and then science them up and use them to benefit everyone in the dome. But outside is just full of like superstorms, and like all the worst things you can expect. So it's funny, or and I think they're really good at getting you to look, or I guess take their vantage point of what it'd be like to live in this world where like just outside isn't safe, and you just live in this like glass world where you're protected from the elements, but you're still delineated into some sort of class-based group. And the people doing like all the hard labor are the people who are treated the worst. And I mean, that's always going to be an evergreen, relatable element to in like fiction, because it's an evergreen thing in society. And like even recently, we're seeing this stuff come back to the main discourse because of the key workers like all around the world. Like some of these jobs that were deemed to be unskilled, not like 2 months maximum ago, are the things that are keeping the country afloat. So it's oddly timely, but it's not really odd when you think about it, because these things are always timely. But I quite like the book. I'm a fan of the character design, costuming, and like the architecture, like across the board. And examples you have, like when you go outside, they wear these yellow domed visors on their gear, and all of it has this like just cool look where it just doesn't look like sci-fi light or just bog standard like uniforming or technology. It does feel original and has its own like flair. And I think a lot of that I think it both comes from the like line art itself and the design, but also from the colors that are used. And you have cool things like the soldier class people. They have these. Well, they like soldier / police class, I guess, but they wear these like white armor like costumes, but they have like lilac capes, which is quite cool. But yeah, all of it feels like it makes the world feel realized, and that there's more going on beyond the specific panels that we get. And I'm interested to see like where it goes. But I think it's a one where like the way the first chapter ends, you're more bought in for like the world and what's going to happen than I'd say maybe specifically the actions going on. but I think those things are going to escalate in the next issue. So I'm intrigued, and I will definitely continue. I'd recommend you give it a read, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, it's been on my list for a while, so it's one that I've been looking at since it came out. I've been like, okay, I need to read this, but yeah, I will eventually get round to it. It will be one that I will read, and I'll get back to you with my thoughts on it because it sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, because I'd say that it seems to be like it has a good idea of what it is, and it's it seems to grab all the big implications of everything and focus it on like actual characters who have emotions and feelings and stuff, and I quite like that, because sometimes when it's just big factions versus other faction, you can kind of get lost in everything. And I think what this another good element about this book is that the lettering's handled in quite a good, like, clear way, with the use of like colored boxes denoting which characters it is, but also just like cool change ups. So like you'll have bits where like the letter boxes are like they're overlaid over the edge of a panel, but instead of being over and having lines, they're just like, it's like they've taken a chunk out of the panel, and it's really cool. Or you have like certain panels to do with voiceovers. They will be like not just straight edges; they'll be more like sketched out, and like the onomatopoeia properly feels like the onomatopoeia is the thing that happens. If you know what I mean. It's like when lightning crashes, the words are in lightning. So there's a lot of like cool things like that, and I think they're good at sort of pulling you through this story from. So you're not just going like panel to panel, but you're actually like pulled into the world a bit more. There's a bit more immersion, and I like stuff. I like little subtle things like that that aid the storytelling. I love stuff like that. That's No One's Rose, #1. I'll read out the credits. It's written by Zach Thompson and Emily Fawn. It's drawn by Alberto Albuquerque, colored by Raul Anglo, and lettered by Hassan Othman Elha.
Yeah, and that is published by Vault Comics and available now digitally.
Yes.
So this one actually intrigued me from the cover, because I've been looking at this and I've even seen a video trailer for this. And again, it's one that's on my list, and you've beat me to it, Leon. So tell me about Mercy.
Okay, Mercy is this is one that I think you should definitely check out the first issue and see what you make of it.
Yeah.
Because Mercy is set in 19th century Washington State.
Yeah.
It's a small town called Woodsburg, which I think it's like maybe on the way to Seattle if you're coming from the east or something.
Okay.
But
we're getting witchy.
Yeah, kind of. So like a traumatic and terrifying incident happens in a mine owned by a Lady Swanson.
Yeah.
And we get snippets of what happens there. There's like really cool panels with her with like a gun just shooting towards us, as we can see like corpses and people rushing out. And it looks monstery. Definitely. They found something in that mine. And it resulted in like loads of deaths, and they conclude that they have to just like, their only option is to like get out of it and blow the place up. So there's a lady there, and she just like, get out, and if you stay here, you're not going to make it. And so like she basically fills up a minecart with. So this isn't Lady Swanson; it's another woman who hates Lady Swanson and blames her for it in the moment. And she fills up a minecart with dynamite, and the next panel we get is just a massive explosion from far away. So And then what happens is that Swanson is blamed for it, but the whole thing's framed as an accident that happened at the mine. People aren't going around talking about monsters. But Lady Swanson herself is haunted by like nightmares, and she keeps referring to the strangers, and she has like powerful, like convulsive seizures while like sleeping and like dreaming or having a night terror about it. And then so like the story picks up sometime after, and they're having a memorial for the people that died that day, including her husband, Swanson's husband. And there's like a weird dealing there because a lot of people like blame her. Some people are outright and rude about it, and it creates this sort of weird, like, I don't know, like societal, not unrest, but like, you know, people are whispering behind your back and stuff like that. So it has that sort of stuff where the town just doesn't feel right. Like, obviously religion is a big thing back then, and everyone is like church going and stuff, but like it feels like there's just an unease in the town. We meet a rambunctious orphan called Rory, and she finds lots of solace in religion and sort of fantasizes dreams about her mother, who she has never met, who I believe she had died while she was young or in childbirth. I think that those details aren't drawn out yet for us, but I found that character to be kind of interesting because at first you could think they're like a annoying brat character, but like she's designed like she looks like Gally in Alita from Battle Angel Alita. Like she's got the hair and she's like short and she's like gets into trouble. But through her we get a bit more of understanding of what the times are like, because she's given shelter by someone that she refers to as her uncle, but really it's a guy who like rounds up stray kids and orphans and has them in his factory making cotton for him, which he then sells to tailors and makes money off. And he's like super abusive to them, and she keeps getting in trouble because she likes to like leave and adventure out and then gets caught. So like already then it's like quite brutal. And while that's happening, we have this stagecoach which is on its way to Seattle, and in it houses a lady called Lady Helene, I believe, and she's with a gentleman who says he's her butler. But they are very strange, but very cool. Like, he has a really cool design. He kind of looks like what you'd expect for a 19th century sort of Victorian-looking dude with like a moustache and all that. And Lady Helene, she's on the cover, and she's like blonde hair. She has the like little hat, and she just has this like menacing look to her. And on the cover, she's like holding this weird, like sort of like tentacly plant thing. And this is something that haunts like the dreams of the some of the other characters. So like something terrible and freaky is happening around, and it's coming to a head as we join all these characters. And I thought it was quite quite good. Like I really like the art style. It's like nice and clean. The colors are quite. I think they bring a lot of character and clarity to the setting of this small town, and like all the fashion, the character design, all of it like fits really well, and manages to, I don't know, convey that sense of unease and like monster, like unseen monster type vibe. But like, I don't know, it's hard to talk about because there's elements in there which are a bit more like story based that I don't want to get into as much. But yeah, I think it was, I think it's pretty good at showing like what that time is kind of like, but also adding this like supernatural element to it. So I'll be curious to see what happens next. Especially, I think this is quite a short miniseries. It might be 5 or 6 issues. And you know me and my not wanting to jump into 60-issue run.
So we're taking the Lovecraft line with this, then, are we?
I would say so. I would. I think there's a heavy implication that is the case. But as it feels now, we're getting bits and pieces. But yeah, it's all the hallmarks of that type of cosmic horror coming. But it's got like quite a cool, I don't know, like nature, like floral, I don't know, like plant-based design to it.
Okay, right. So it's like they uncovered something in the mine that's it's probably been buried for eons or something like that. Which is kind of a cool idea. Yeah, I mean,
also, but things are like with the people not as clean as they see. So, like Lady Swanson, who owned the mine, she also owns other businesses around town, including the brothel.
Yeah,
and she shows that she's not just this like rich widow. She's actually can be quite savage, and without going into too much detail, she manages to enact some revenge on some people who disrespected her. So it's like it adds to this sort of gangstery element to this character. But yeah, there's some stuff in here that I'm hoping that how it's done is going to serve like a purpose. Otherwise, it could be like uncomfortable. So an example of that is like the treatment of Rory by the dude. Like, I think that as it is, it's effective in sort of showing us like the stakes and what an awful time in this is. But if that stuff doesn't lead anywhere, it could just feel, I don't know, not exploitative, but like unnecessary.
Yeah.
And then there's some like possible awkwardness to do with like a sex worker who's part of a scheme by one of the characters. There's like uncomfortable racial elements there, so I'm interested to see what the outcome of that, and if that's like set up into as part of this story to delve in deeper to these like flawed characters, or if it's like just stylistic. Benefit of the doubt, I'm going with the former at the moment, but it definitely not I don't know, not even out of context, but it definitely could feel indelicate depending on what they do next.
Yeah. It's funny you should mention that, actually, because there's a comic I'm currently reading that I will talk about on a future episode, which is set in a similar time in the US. Did you say this was set in the 1800s or the 1900s?
1800s, so late 19th century.
Yeah, okay. So the book I'm currently reading is called 7 Deadly Sins, which is a Western. So a similar time. It's like a real rough, dirty, violent Western comic, which I will talk about in another episode or whatever, but it's possibly in the next episode we do. But it's there's some similar things in that. There's some points in that where it comes off is it just trying to be? Is it just aiming for historical accuracy, or is it gonna? Because what's in there could come off as quite uncomfortable for some readers. And I think when I do begin to talk about it, if I recommend it to anybody, I think I would put like a warning on it saying that you may find elements of this book uncomfortable. But I'm not sure if it's just going for historical accuracy and to tell you this is what the times were like, or whether it's actually going to do something with that or what. But
because sometimes that can be used as, say, like a shield for a work to be overindulgent in presenting those things. Instead of, as you say, like using those things to show, like, to be brutally honest about and not candy coat or whitewash what those realities were like.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I mean, we'll probably have to dive into. I mean, I would recommend it actually. If you do get the chance to check out any of Seven Deadly Sins, which TKO that is.
Yeah.
So
I'll check it out.
Whole story's available already, so go for it because it's TKO Comics.
So this was MIRKA ANDOLFO'S Mercy 1. It was she was the writer, artist, and colorist. Color assistant was Gianluca Papi. Lettering was done by Fabio Emilia, and that is Image Comics. And this is an Italian book. They're all part of Arancia Studio, and it was translated to English.
Nice. So
I think it's quite a strong start. I did see, like, when I was doing some research for this, I saw people complaining about, like, the translation, and saying that they felt that they didn't think the translation was good. So, like, it made that the English not appear stilted for them or something. But I don't know. Maybe if you read this, maybe you get that. I didn't get that at all. It seemed to flow as intended for me.
I'll have to check that out. I definitely wanted to check it out. As I say, it's been on my list, and I've seen a lot of buzz about it. So it's something that Image appeared to be pushing quite heavily as well, because their website, for a while, this was the main feature, wasn't it? Yeah. So, so for the final comic, I think we're going to finish on a high note. Because this was pure comfort comics for me. So Butler off, Leon. Butler off. The guy in Mercy versus Alfred Pennyworth. I
mean, I think the guy from Mercy is quite possibly some sort of eldritch beast in human form. So I mean, even if Alfred wasn't the best Butler ever made, I'm going to have to go Alfred.
Yeah, Alfred's like he's like SAS trained and everything as well, and he knows where everything is in the Batcave. He knows how to activate certain protocols and things like that. So I think he could take down an eldritch horror. Yeah, I've seen Alfred do some pretty wild and badass stuff.
That's the thing. Like, he probably knows. He knows all of his lore. He knows the right book to use, the right key to use, whatever it is. Like, he knows.
I've seen Alfred do some wild and badass stuff to defend Wayne Manor. So yeah, my money's on Alfred. But yeah, so the last book we're going to talk about is Batman: The Adventures Continue. So this is Batman: The Adventures Continue, Chapter 1, which was released Wednesday just gone, which was the 1st of April. Currently digital only. It was, I think the plan for it was always to be digital only at first, but then available in print from May 6th. The most heartbreaking thing about this is it's only going to be 6 issues long.
It could be a start. You could get more.
I know, but like, it's just gonna be ending before it's started. You know, I want more than 6. That's not even a full season of the TV show. So yeah, this is some total comfort comics for me. It is basically the Batman animated series in comic form, kind of like follows on from the other Batman books that got released in this vein, like Batman Adventures books, which were released, which were sort of like between 92 and 95. And it has the same artist as well. It's the same artist that worked on those original Batman Adventures books from 92. And for me, this is just excellent. First of all, I love that it's in landscape. And I'm pretty sure that was purposely done to make it almost like watching TV. The art is absolutely gorgeous and fully breathes life into the world of Batman TAS, keeping diligently to Bruce Timm's design, just like it always has, because, like I said, this is the same artist worked on the original books. So the team behind this, it is written by Alan Burnett and Paul Dini. So already Paul Dini's on there. The art is Ty Templeton. Colors by Monica Kubina and lettering by Joshua Reed. And there's the cover is by Dave Johnson. And yeah, it even has a title card, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it is basically just like having an episode of TAS, and it's quite a nice little thing to have. And it'll be, when it comes out in print, I'll definitely be buying it in print, because it just stays true to the design of the series. It follows on from where the series ended, even down to the fact that they have they've aged the characters slightly, or drawn, like to in keeping with the timeline. Batman's suit has changed, his costume's different, things like that. It's just they're keeping it in keeping with the timeline, so they're kind of like, so this is the story now kind of thing. There's a lot of returning characters. This first story, it starts with Batman like wailing on Bane. And then goes on to Batman versus Giant Robot. Giant Robot breaks into Wayne Tech, steals something cool. That something cool appears to be alien tech. And the plot just kind of like spirals from there. And it's Batman doing his detective thing, trying to work out, what this robot is, who this robot might be in service to. Is it extraterrestrial technology? And, why does it want the thing that was in the Wayne Tech place? So yeah, it's a typical episode of TAS, and that works in its favor, I think. And you read this too, didn't you, Leon?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And yeah, I can't praise this enough. I want more of it. I want more than 6 issues. It's bi-weekly at the moment, so the digital release will be bi-weekly, and then we'll be getting, hopefully from May the 6th, if everything's back up and running by then, we'll be able to get the print issues. And yeah, if this whets your appetite, then all the back issues of Batman Adventures comic are also available right now digitally. All of that is on Comixology as well. So I mean, how did you find this, Leon? I'm pretty sure that I've pretty much said everything that you're probably going to say anyway.
Yeah, because what this is like nostalgia porn in a way.
Yeah.
Because it like going through then, there's things that will, if you came up or you like have a history with that era of Batman cartoon, then when you see all these designs, when you got that the angular designs with like the just like the way, is it Art Deco or is it Gothic? The way Gotham looks, like
It's Art Deco.
Yeah, you've got all those different elements. They can't help but resonate with you. Like as I'm reading this, the characters who I know, like Batman and Bullock and others, they all have the voices that they had in the Timverse animations, and it's funny how that can happen where I wasn't even doing it; it's just in my head. I could hear Kevin Conroy when Batman spoke, and yeah, it's odd because it feels like how an HD remake of this would look, if you know what I mean, where like everything is a bit sharper and cleaner, and there's like different techniques to how you do the backgrounds and all that, but it's actually new stories from like the original team. So yeah, it's pretty good. I thought it was pretty funny because it does have the pacing of an animation as well, where like you just jump from location to location, and it is just the uncanny straight away, and then you have like characters who have a history together. Like it does like pick up as we're like several years deep into this version of Batman and Bruce Wayne. Then what I do like is the way how it takes that like angular and like sort of flat style design, but like through the mix of like coloring and just the way it's presented, like panel wise, gives it a much more vibrant and modern look. Like even Gotham itself, like the range of colors being used on the streets and stuff like that, it does look like it's a few years after. Like the way the cars looked, it looks like they've progressed a few years, like maybe 5-10 years or something like that. And I do like that that detail and wrinkle.
It's that sickly red sky, man. That sickly red TAS sky. It's just so beautiful. It's that like light pollution. They get it like smack on. Yeah. I always loved how they did that in the show, and I love the digital coloring. Actually, it's nice and I'm assuming it's colored digitally. I might be wrong, but it looks like it is, because it's nice and clean and nice and highly defined, which is the kind of, like, if you were watching the TV show nowadays, what you'd expect. I mean, everyone talks about the warmth as well of the original episodes of the show. The warmth in the colors and the warmth in the way that it's painted and everything. Like, it has this kind of like analog edge to it, like when you put a vinyl record on versus listening to an MP3. And I think this book manages to actually capture that quite well in the way that it's pacing and the way that it's laid out and everything else. There's something this book does that just fully manages to capture the magic for me.
I think a lot of it is that character design. I think it just it goes a long way. But then, like, I'd say maybe on the counter end, like, I'm not. If you don't have that association with this, I'm not. Like, this wouldn't even be a jumping on point, I would say, for me, because this feels like it's served up for us. But if, like, say you're new, I would recommend the old comics before reading this.
Yeah, just get into it, go back to the start. I mean, if I don't know, because you could be wanting to get into TAS. It's all, I mean, TAS is all there to stream now as well. That's on the DC streaming service. There's also a Blu-ray box set floating about. But like, if you wanted to like get in from the beginning, if you're a Batman fan, it's a cool comic anyway. I mean, you don't necessarily have to have a history with the Bruce.
No, but I think our immediate connection to it comes from the place, and I don't think that is guaranteed from those who don't have that emotional connection to. No,
obviously, we are this particular design of Batman and this particular style is indelibly etched upon my mind, and this is when my first kind of experience of Batman and being like, wow, Batman, this was it for me. So yeah, this is where I hopped on board the Bat train when I was a kid. So yeah, you're right, Leon. But yeah, So that is the Batman Adventures continue. Batman: The Adventures Continue. And yeah, so written by Alan Burnett and Paul Dini, art by Ty Templeton, colors by Monica Cabina, and lettering by Joshua Reed, cover by Dave Johnson. Now, at this point, we have ran out of comics. That's the end of the list. Leon, you got any further thoughts you want to share?
No, not currently. Though I will say, I think that your hope for the beginning of May is unfortunately not going to happen, man.
I know, but I have to have hope, right? I mean, they're saying May 6th. They're saying it'll be in print May 6th, but maybe not. But who knows? Depends what happens. But yeah, I mean, if it's not going to be in print by May 6th, the whole thing's coming out bi-weekly anyway, digitally, so I'll still be able to read it.
That's nuts. How like this and the ice cream? How are people getting comics out?
These people are just so prolific. Like it's insane, and it's also really cool that these people are so creative and prolific, and I love it. And I love that it's kind of like a defiant stand in the face of everything that's happening right now to try and keep comics going, which I really love. I'm loving the energy around it, and I'm loving the positivity around it as well, that we still have comics, that we still enjoy comics, and that's what I kind of want to keep doing this. It's kind of what Ace Comicals is about, really, isn't it? So it is at the minute anyway. So that has been Ace Comicals episode number 85. There will be no pull list because much like last week, we don't know what's happening. Really, we don't know what's going to be out when, as far as we know, new comics are halted. So I can't really tell you what you should be looking forward to next week, because that's really unfair. Because although I could probably get a list somewhere of all the things that were meant to be out, because there are, there orders would have been placed and things I expect, or catalogs would exist. But so I'm not gonna do that to you. So that has been Ace Comicals episode number 85. You can find us everywhere that you can find a podcast. That is Pocket Casts, iTunes, Castbox, Castro, Overcast, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. You can find us at www.acecomicals.com, which is the hub for everything we do. You can get in touch via email at acecomicals@gmail.com. You can get in touch with us on Twitter. We are on Twitter under Ace Comicals. Leon, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Leon Everett. And as like I said last episode, I'm going to keep it going. I just want to shout out to all the people who are keeping this country running and are likely not getting the support that they require. But we're like super grateful.
Sentiment echoed. And you can, if you feel so inclined, we have a Ko-fi page where you can donate the price of a coffee to help keep the lights on here at Ace Comicals, keeps the website up and the podcast hosted. You can find me on Twitter under @Bato. Get in touch. Like I said last time, I want to hear what's new to you. So, I mean, even if there's no new comics being published or released right now, we can still chat comics. That's what I'm here for that, So drop us a line at Ace Comicals, drop me a line on Twitter. I'll pretend I'm selling you comics. I'll stand on the other side of the counter and we can talk about what's new to you, what you guys might be reading right now. Leon, where can we find you?
Same place.
Yes. Twitter under Leon Everett. So, that has been Ace Comicals 85. That's Ace Comicals, over and out.